So how we can help dogs learn. So this is what we need to do, is actually understand the learning of these dogs here. So there's some really special critical learning periods with dogs. So this is where they have lots of brain remodeling during that time. So their brains are like sponges and they can form long-lasting relationships with them during these times. So again, we work out whether it's good or it's bad for them during that present time. Sometimes it can be hard to unlearn during these times. So we go through socialization period with dogs as well as some other developmental times later on. So if they're going through that period with those dogs during those times, we may actually go, you know what, this dog isn't coping during this, exposing them to something new. Let's just take it back a few notches and then just go at the dog's pace there. So socialization happens between 3 to 12 to 14 weeks of age. So we know that these dogs are with their breeder or they're in that environment, and we need to help these puppies during that time to actually be exposed to as much as we can. So different types of stimuli, different types of animals if possible, you know, different types of people. So again, their brains are like sponges during this time, different surfaces as well. So again, when we've got puppies in our care, let's do the right thing for them. So later on down the track, when they have finished their racing, or maybe they haven't raced at all, they have been exposed to simple home environments as well during that period. Social maturity for dogs happens between 18 to 36 months of age as well. Fear periods in dogs happen around 10 weeks of age, and this is where they might be going along really well, and then they may be fearful for a few days up to a week as well. Again, if we're seeing puppies become fearful of certain stimuli or triggers, then again we just need to slow things down and not push them so they become too sensitive to it, or they may start to avoid those sort of things as well. So again, think of it from the dog's perspective. So if a dog is fearful of something, doesn't mean we need to make it draw it closer to it or expose it to it so it can't escape, because that's actually going to make it worse and not better. Listen to the dog and go at the dog's pace and going, right, I'll just gently expose it to you at your distance where you are comfortable, and gradually we can decrease the distance and get a bit closer if that's all right. We definitely don't want to overwhelm that dog during that period. Now, so this fear period can last from 3 days or up to 10 days perhaps. So again, you may or may not see him. It's just something that you might need to be aware of. And of course, we've got geriatric periods in dogs as well. So what we can see when these dogs simply aren't coping. So in this video here, we've got a trainer that's exposing dogs to fireworks without the ability to escape. So you can see through the body language of these dogs how these dogs actually are so frightened that these fireworks are going off. Now remember, dogs don't have the concept of fireworks. They don't understand what it is. So this trainer wants to desensitize these dogs to fireworks. You can see through this video that he's probably going to make it worse and not better. So these dogs actually will become sensitive to fireworks. So next time they hear fireworks, they'll probably jump out of the backyard, they may jump out of a window, they may just do anything they can to actually escape that noise because of this one experience that they've been exposed to. So how we work with dogs is I work with them on a traffic light system. So we've got orange zone, red zone and green zone. So again, when I'm working with dogs, I like to have them in the green zone, and I'll explain why. So you can see through this table here that's having a dog in the green zone is the best frame of mind for learning. This is when we can expose these dogs to different triggers, different stimuli, and they're able to cope, retain that information and learn from it as well. When the dog's in the red zone, that little amygdala is on and they are in flight, fight, emotional state. So it's self-preservation for these guys. They cannot learn during those periods. So again, when we're working with these dogs, let's get them in the green zone. Let's recognize when they're actually in that, and we can actually teach them and they can retain that information at that particular time. So green zone, they're able to learn, they're able to be relaxed in the environment they're in, they're calm, they're retaining that information. When we have dogs in the orange zone, these dogs are starting to do the freeze, they're starting to fiddle, they are shut down, they are unsettled, they are hypervigilant, they're pacing, they're simply not listening. So these guys may be in an environment where it's just too overwhelming for them. So again, we need to look at what is going on in that particular environment and go, right, what can we do to get them back into the green zone again? And it might be simply creating some distance and go, right, shake it off, let's start again, let's see how you actually cope if we go at our pace, and just slow everything down and work with the dog rather than us pushing it forward. When dogs are in the red zone, it's flight or fight. These guys are escaping, they're either having a panic or panic attack. They could be aggressive, that fight option. There could be self-harm or self-mutilation as well, so they redirect onto themselves. There seems to be no logic present with these dogs. We may look at these behaviours and go, it doesn't make any sense to us, but for the dog it's real, and they're simply not coping during that time. So here we have a video of a dog through a greyhound through a thunderstorm or fireworks, and you can see this dog completely shut down and trembling in fear. So this is what I call in the red zone. This dog is actually, its little amygdala is telling you this is the scariest thing in the whole world. So again, we can help these dogs, we can seek information for them, we can get medical treatment, we can speak to people who have got specialty in behaviour and actually reduce this dog's stress during these periods of time. So here we have another dog that may be suffering from separation distress, and this owner may have been told to provide this dog into a crate. Now for this dog here, it's not coping in the crate. As you can see, it's trying to get out, it's doing everything it can to escape. So again, it's not being naughty or defiant. We've put it into an environment where it's simply not coping, and it will do everything it can to actually escape. So again, if you are dealing with dogs that actually have a behavioural problem, then seek professional advice, because we can get on top of this and actually make their lives so much easier for them. So we might do everything that we possibly can. We might do all the right things, but sometimes shit happens. And what we do know about these dogs is that they are normal functioning dogs, but sometimes things go a bit pear-shaped. So again, we might do all the right work, but genetically these dogs may be predisposed to anxiety or phobias. So again, if we have great contact or great relationship with the new owners of the dogs that we rehome, we can actually point them in the right direction, saying, look, we did everything that we could, but sometimes these things simply just happen. So again, have that line of communication open with new owners or people that have taken on dogs of yours, and point them in the right direction for actual behavioural help. So no quick fixes. We actually need to look at this as a long term. So we need to get the right advice to get the great outcome that we want for these dogs here. So something to think about when we look at rehoming dogs is we want to create a lot of independence. So this is one thing that I have found when I'm working in this industry, is that we have a lot of dogs that simply cannot cope on being on their own. Why? It's because they've been so used to living with other dogs in a kennel situation, which is not a bad thing. It's all they've ever known. We take that dog out of that environment and put it into a home where it's the only dog. It's quiet. There's no other dogs around, there is no noise, there is no usual environment that it's used to, and all of a sudden this dog starts to panic because it has no idea what is going on. So if we're looking at rehoming dogs, I actually strongly recommend some alone time on their own and see how they're going to build up that resilience and build up that independence, because we want these dogs to cope being on their own. It is normal for people to work 8 hours a day and leave their dogs at home. But what we do have is some dogs that cannot cope when people actually leave. So again, if we're looking at rehoming, let's set these dogs up for winning and actually start desensitizing them to being alone and build up that independence for them. So how we can help dogs learn. So dogs learn through association. They learn through consequences of their action. Just to keep it really simple, they're always trying to obtain good things and avoid bad. So we need to keep it really, really simple, but you need to understand how actual dogs learn. So I like to use a lot of positive reinforcement. So with positive reinforcement, we like to keep it friendly, we keep it clear, and we reward and encourage the behaviours that we actually do want. So it's like when we go to work, We always want our boss to tell us that we're doing a good job, you know, and get rewarded for it as well. So again, it gives us a motivation to go to work. And it's the same as our dogs as well. So again, lots of positive reinforcement goes a long way. When we start looking at punishment, we need to understand that there's a certain criteria that we need to follow if we're going to use a form of punishment. So the form of punishment, for it to be effective, it needs to be immediate, it needs to be consistent, and it needs to be aversive enough to stop the behaviour in 1 or 2 exposures. And what that simply means is that if you are looking at using physical force on a dog, then you need to make sure that it is consistent. And unfortunately, with positive punishment, there's a lot of inconsistencies in it. So this is something we definitely don't recommend anyone to either refer to or use on their own dogs, because there's too much room for error with them, which actually can cause fear in dogs rather than working to the best of their ability. So flooding is when we don't allow that dog any chance to escape what is making them worried. So again, if we've got dogs that are being exposed to crowds, we put them in the middle of the crowd and people are all over these dogs and they've never been exposed to it before. So again, these dogs may become shut down or fearful. So this is what we call flooding, when they don't have the opportunity to escape. Be very, very mindful of it, and it's certainly not a practice that we like to use. So in this video here, you can see a trainer wants to desensitize this dog to other dogs by putting a muzzle on him, exposing him to all other types of dogs without the opportunity to escape. Watch the body language of that dog. You can see him actually shut down and fearful. And then you think to yourself, what will happen the next time that dog is actually exposed to other dogs? More than likely, he'll become more reactive because he's not having a good experience with them at this present time. This is what we call trigger stacking. So all dogs are capable of biting. My dogs, your dogs, every dog is capable of biting. And in that red line that we've got there, this is what we call the dog's bite threshold. Now, dogs on their own might be fine meeting other dogs. They might be okay seeing a child on a skateboard. And again, they might be fine just having a pat on the head. But when we stack all 3 of them on top of each other, we might get to this dog's bite threshold and it actually reacts. So again, be mindful on what your dog's triggers are and note them down, pass that information on to other people so we actually avoid getting to that bite threshold in that dog. So when we push dogs over their threshold, we use intimidation, we make them feel unsafe, we make them feel uncomfortable, we have to think, are we doing the right thing by the dog or are we actually doing the wrong thing by it? So again, work out what outcome you want. I want a happy, confident, resilient dog. I don't want a fearful, shut down dog that's afraid to be exposed to anything because it's too worried that it will get punished. So again, look at the training methods, look at what's being used and work out whether it's actually helping or hindering that dog at that present time. So to wrap up today's presentation, we want to talk about a bit of nature versus nurture. So it's about raising those healthy puppies. And again, resilience. Resilience is a great word that we like to use in puppy socialization. And really it's about recovering from anything that it's feeling worried about. It's to spring back, it's to rebound. It does not mean it is bomb-proof. It simply means it can see it, it hears it, it responds, but it's actually okay. We can actually build up resilience in dogs there. So epigenetics is something that we know as well, where there's lots of studies done on epigenetics in dogs, and it's about breeding from dogs that may have behavioural problems. And that can be passed down to the puppies. So if we're breeding from a dog that is fearful in storms or aggressive to other dogs, that may possibly be brought into those puppies' temperament as well because of that line of behaviour there. So socialization, it's about tolerance and acceptance. It's not about play. And this is where a lot of people actually get confused in that. So people think that they're socializing their puppies by taking them down to the off-lead dog park and letting them loose. What we need to do is actually expose our puppies and then to see it, accept it, and just go, yep, that's just another person. Yep, that's just another dog. Oh, yep, that's just a bus. So that's truly what socialization is really about. It's certainly not about play. So this happens between 3 to 12 to 14 weeks of age. If we do it wrong or they have a bad experience during that time, it may be detrimental for them later on in life just from that one experience. So again, we don't need to wrap them up in cotton wool. We need to expose them to as much as we can, but work at that puppy's threshold, not ours. So habituation, again, is simply getting used to. We need to be mindful of that when we're exposing it to dogs. So again, when we're exposing to dogs to certain stimuli, hopefully they'll build up a resistance towards it. So very similar if we live on a flight path of an airport and we first move into this house and the plane goes over us and we go, oh my gosh, there's a plane that's coming over us. You know, how am I going to live here? And over 6 months, you forget about the planes that are actually flying over. You've become habituated to them. You've simply gotten used to that noise. It's not that big a deal anymore. You know that they're not a threat. You know that they're not scary. And it's something that's just your everyday life now. And it's the same as our puppies as well. So that's what habituation is. So again, it could be simple things like wearing a collar, traveling in a car, being handled, being exposed to different environments at that particular time, noises, so on. The list is endless. So good socialization is about exposing puppies, and these exposures need to be positive, rewarding and non-threatening, and we need to do this throughout the first year of their life as much as possible. And it does not need to be on a play-based situation. So again, it's not about letting puppies play with other puppies. It's simply exposing them to as much as we can at that particular time. So here we have some puppies, some Greyhound puppies that are meeting unfamiliar people for the first time. And as you can see, there's a bit of hesitance, but once they feel confident that they're not in a threatening situation, they're actually coming very forward and very willing to meet new people. So again, we can tick that box that they've met unfamiliar people and we weren't scary at all. So we went at the puppy's pace, not at our pace, and you can see these puppies adapt very well. This again is a dog that is quite social with people. You can see he's coming up to the fence line there. He's very willing to interact. It seems like he wanted to jump over the fence and come with us. So this is what I call a very friendly and well socialized dog with people. So again, this is the behaviors that we want to see, which makes a great home dog to rehome. This is all types of information that we've got that we need to expose these dogs to. So this is what we call like a bit of a socialization list. And again, we have this available for you guys to download and maybe hand out to new owners or any puppy rearers that you may have. Again, it's just making you be aware of what's actually out there, what we need to expose puppies to. So again, later on in life, when we look at rehoming them, they've actually been in those situations and in those environments as well, and they're not so scary. So bad socialization obviously is bad experiences, no exposure during that time. So if we have a look at the behavior of this Greyhound here, it's not saying that he's aggressive, he's just worried about unfamiliar people. You can see that he's trying to create distance. You can see that he is trying to interact, but he doesn't know how to. Was it because he wasn't socialized as a younger dog? Was it because he was never introduced to unfamiliar people? Or was it because he's genetically predisposed to those sort of behaviors? Was his parents actually anxious dogs and worried about unfamiliar people? I don't know his story at all, but his body language is giving us lots of information that we just need to take our time and go slow with this dog to actually build up maybe a bit of resilience and actually learn to accept unfamiliar people. This is a dog that we do not rush. This is a dog that we go at his pace, learn and listen from him as well. Something we can add to a dog's experiences pheromones. So this is a product that we've called Adaptil. It's a synthetic pheromone that has been impregnated into a collar, a diffuser or a spray, and it's very similar to the pheromone that bitches excrete when puppies can't see or hear. It gives them a sense of security. So again, when we're looking at rehoming dogs, they might be a bit worried. You can actually pop one of these Adaptil collars on them to actually reduce that stress in mild cases. Zilkene's another product that you can buy over the counter, and it has some studies done on that actually have proven to reduce stress and anxiety in some dogs, again in mild cases. So again, a couple little tools there that you might want to look at that can be beneficial for dog when transitioning into a new home. So who's responsible for doing this to our dogs to make them as resilient and as good of an experience for them as possible? So breeders, owners, rearers, breakers, trainers, service providers are all responsible, but also me. I'm responsible as well, because if I don't get this right information across to you guys, then I'm not doing my job for you as well. So again, we're all responsible. I'm putting my hat in the ring as well, saying I'm here to help and educate you guys as much as possible to make this as easy as we can for these greyhounds, who are fantastic pets, can really adapt into a pet home, but some of them might need a bit more hand holding than others. So again, we need to learn and work with these dogs to the best of our ability. So when we're looking at older dogs as well, we need to ask ourselves, are they suitable to be rehomed? Is there any behavioural problems that are actually out there that we need some extra help and some understanding? We've got a great team here at GAPNSW through GAP as well about actually understanding behavioural problems in dogs. So if you're ever not sure, reach out to us here and we hopefully will be able to get you the right information to get these dogs on track to find the perfect home.